you're thinking about moving to Oregon wine country, specifically Newberg, do not buy a home until you watch this video. I'm going to dive into everything Newberg in this map tour video, where everything is, where the growth is happening, price points, everything you need to know before you make a decision on whether to move here or not. So stick around, let's get to it. But before we do, if you're looking for a source for real estate and lifestyle information for here in the Portland Metro and Oregon wine country, make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss any of the future content here on my channel. Okay, let's talk about Newberg. So Newberg is it's a smaller town. It's not super small, but it's definitely not big. It's a population of around 26,000 people. It's in the western suburbs outside of Portland, and it's considered the edge or the gateway to Oregon wine country. So the closest city to Portland that begins what's considered Oregon wine country in the winery area, and we'll get into some of that here in a little bit. So the first thing that I'm going to kind of give you a few things here. First of all, I'm going to give you the lay of the land, just kind of show you where Newberg is in relation to some of the other towns and cities around, where it is in relation to Portland, kind of point out some major employers, just to kind of show you where they are, where it is in relation to that. Then we'll talk about the amenities, some of the cool things about Newberg, things that make it unique, things that to do that when you're there, whether you live there or visiting. So we'll talk about some of those things, and then we will jump into neighborhoods and housing and price points and all of that good stuff, which is super important if you are looking to move there, right? So definitely want to know where it is and what there is to do and all the amenities, but then we got to know what's available for housing as well. So we'll get into that third. So let's start with just kind of getting a lay of the land, where things are at, where Newberg is in relation to some of the other parts of Portland and the Portland Metro. So here's Newberg over here, and Portland is up this direction. So Newberg is basically about 20-ish miles southwest of Portland. So it's a southwest suburb, right on the edge of Yamhill County. Again, you're about 20 to 22 miles, about a 30 to 40 minute drive to Portland, depending on what part of Portland you're trying to get to. So definitely a western or southwest suburb to Portland itself. And then down this way, you've got the capital, Salem, which is about the same distance the other direction down south. And then up north here, you have Hillsborough, Beaverton, and these are where you're going to find a couple of the larger employers in the Portland metro area. You've got Nike campus up here, you have Intel, so that's up this direction. So just to kind of know where maybe like the major hubs are for a lot of the jobs, which we'll get into here in just a second as well. This area, part of what makes this area so cool is you are surrounded by mountain ranges. I mean, Oregon has a lot of mountain ranges, a lot of mountains, very beautiful, but basically as you're coming down 99W here into Newberg, this is the main road into Newberg from the Portland side, you can see that you're surrounded here. You've got the Chehalem, Chehalem Mountain here, you have Parrot Mountain here, it's all part of the Chehalem Mountain Range, and so you're just basically driving down the middle of those into the valley, into Newberg. And so when you're in Newberg, you're looking up at these hills here, you've got hills on this side. So it's a really great, it's very beautiful, and it's a very neat setting with the mountains around it. So that's kind of where, and then if you go further out this way, you get deeper into wine country. You have McMinnville, which is the largest town out here in Yamhill County. And then, some of the littler towns, Carlton. This is all Oregon wine country out here in Yamhill Valley, Yamhill County. And there's lots of wineries, lots of vineyards. It's a big part of the industry here, as you see them kind of pop up on the map here. So let's talk really quick about employment, because if you're going to live here, you got to know where you're going to work, right? There's definitely some opportunities in town. Again, it's not a huge town, so there's not a lot of large employers. There is ADEC right here, you can see, which is actually one of the largest in the world for dental equipment manufacturing. They make dental equipment. They've been around for a long time. Deep roots in the community, the owners of that, and the people that started that, the family that started that. So and they're a great company, really good reputation. but obviously a specific niche. But if you're doing manufacturing, something like that, or I'm sure they have sales departments, things like that. So there's potentially an opportunity there. And then you've got the hospital. You've got Providence Hospital, which is down this way, and you have the university, George Fox University, deep roots there in the community as well, private university. So if you're in education, obviously you've got the local school systems, things like that. You also have, the wine and hospitality industry. If you're looking for, something, maybe you don't need a big employer, you just, need something like that would work for you. Vineyard, winery, tasting rooms, hospitality. You've got the Allison Inn and Spa up here, which is a 5-star resort hotel that has, obviously a hotel. They've got a spa, they've got a restaurant, and great food. Really well done complex here. Brings in lots of people into town in the hospitality and tourism industry for the wineries and everything. So that's another opportunity there. Otherwise, outside of that, you're looking at, some of the probably commuting, right? You're going to commute. We looked up north, right? You've got Nike and Intel up north here. You've got Lam Research, also another tech company here out this direction. We've got, Nike, Intel up here. You obviously have quite a bit in Portland. And then, you could maybe state jobs and some other larger employers down in Salem. So you potentially, a lot of people are going to be commuting from Newberg to one of those areas for work, unless you're working from home, which is great. I know there's a lot more of that now. Or if you're working, maybe hospitality, wine industry, there's absolutely jobs for that as well, and a couple of the other smaller, more local employers. Okay, I'm going to touch on schools real quick just to give you the lay of where those things are. I'm not really going to get into school ratings. I'll provide some resources for that in the description, just you can do your own research on school ratings and things like that. But there are some, there's the public school system, obviously, and then there's a couple other private options if you want to get into that as well, if that's more your speed. But basically, for a number of the school systems, you've got North College here. That's going to split your middle schools, so east and west, and then you've got one high school in Newberg, which is right over this direction on Deborah. I'll change map layers here so you can see that. So you've got the high school here, you've got one of the middle schools, and you've got, there's actually one of the elementary schools is over here as well. And then the elementary schools, you've got a number of them. One that kind of covers this area, one that's more, like this section, and then you've got your east rural. There's a west rural one that's down this direction, and then there's your south Newberg middle school down this way. As far as private schools, there's a couple. There's one up here called Veritas, right on this side of town, right up in this area, and then there's C.S. Lewis, which is right off of College here. In this area, and then there are a couple smaller, more like really small private school options as well. My kids are part of a local co-op actually there, so it's there's definitely some options outside of the public school system if that's more what you're looking for. Okay, let's start getting into some of the fun stuff. Not that the other stuff wasn't important, absolutely is, but let's dive into some of what makes Newberg special, some of what's unique to Newberg, and some of the things to do. So first thing, I always like to go to downtown. I love downtowns, and Newberg certainly has some things to offer down here. This is kind of a main thoroughfare, so it's not like quiet and quaint necessarily. There is a decent amount of traffic going through here. Fortunately, they put this bypass in a while back. It's been on the docket for many years. They finally got phase 1 done, working on getting phase 2 done up here at some point, and that does take a lot of the truck traffic that used to go through here. That's trying to get out towards McMinnville and some of those other areas that used to go through downtown. It is sending it off that way now, which has been a huge help for noise levels and that sort of thing, and just kind of helping downtown have a little bit more walkability feel. But yeah, there's just a lot of, obviously wine industry. There's lots of tasting rooms. There's some wineries. There's some great restaurants. Old Town Bar and Grill is a cool little hangout. Barley and Vine Tavern, Social Goods. This is a great little spot for local beer and cider. They've got a tap, taps there. Well, Barley and Vine has a bunch of taps too. Social Goods has a bunch. They also have, a bunch of local ones in the refrigerated section. They do live music. They do, some sports stuff there. So cool stuff there. You've got where did it go? It's right. Oh yeah, there it is. Rosemarino. I knew it was here somewhere. Really nice Italian restaurant. The owner, chef is from Italy, so it's authentic Italian food. It's an authentic experience. I actually did a separate video with him. Was fortunate to be able to do that with him, interview him a little bit, talk a little bit about his restaurant and what he does there. So make sure you check that one out as well if that's interesting to you. But great restaurant there. And then there's just Chapters Coffee's books and coffee. There's a bunch of shops down here. There's some antique shops. Just a lot of really cool, unique things downtown. Like I said, I love walking downtown, hanging out downtown. I just always think it's a really neat experience to do that. Down this way, I'll point out a couple other things. So there's actually a really cool skate park down this way. So I'm not into skating. I've never really been a skater, but there's actually a skate park down here that's actually apparently pretty famous. We've got a skate park, dirt bike track down here. So that's kind of a unique, cool feature. And then up this way, you've got something that you don't see very often. I know there's still some of them around, but they've been dying off over the years, right? We've got a drive-in movie theater right here, which is super neat and really busy. You'll see these cars lined up down the road here waiting to get in during the summer when they're open. So very active still, and it's really neat to have that in town, have that experience that we don't get very often for these days. And the family that owns this actually also owns, I missed that when I was downtown, there's a theater down here called the Cameo Theater right here, which was I think it built in 1910 and renamed to Cameo in the 1920s. So been around for over 100 years. A really neat building, really neat experience to watch movies. They're still running movies in it, so that's a really cool thing downtown as well. Okay, one other thing that I skipped over here was we actually have here in Newberg a little airport, not a big one by any means. There it is. I was trying to get my bearings. Sorry. Sportsman Air Park. They just redid this actually a few years ago. They redid the runway. So if you have a private plane or want to get into flying, there's options there for that as well. So kind of a unique feature for the town here as well. It was a pretty small town, but have our own airport runway, which is kind of cool. Another thing, if you're into water at all, you may have noticed when I was looking at the map before, we've got the river right here, the Willamette River. We actually have our own boat launch here in Newberg that you can access the park. So if you're into fishing, if you're into boating and skiing and tubing or wakeboarding or any of those things, paddleboarding, kayaking, you've got easy access right here. They do boat races down here, which is really fun on Memorial Weekend. Especially if you're on the south side of town here, super easy access to the river for all of those water activities. Last thing I'm going to point out, and then we'll get into this a little bit more when we get into neighborhoods, but I'll talk about parks in the Park and Rec department. So we've actually got this really nice golf course. This is actually run by the local Park and Rec department, but it is, for a small town Park and Rec district, this is a quality golf course. I'm not a big golfer. I do enjoy it. I don't get to play as much as I like, and I'm quite frankly not very good, but this is a really nice golf course, really well taken care of. 18 holes, challenging. It's a really nice setting, and it's, I've probably lost about a dozen balls in there, and who knows how many in there, and this little ravine here, I know that I've lost some in here trying to get over to that one on that little par 3. But yeah, 18 holes, they're actually looking at expanding another 9 down this direction at some point. But yeah, it's kind of an awesome feature especially if you're into golf. Very reasonable green fees and a really nice course. There's quite a few of other parks here. If your kids are into, softball or baseball or soccer, you're going to be, you know, here at Jacobs Park probably, or up here at Darnell Wright, with the softball complex here. You have, I just skipped over it. Oh yeah, Chehalem Aquatic and Fitness Center. There's a little park here, but then I just kind of want to point that out along my way here. We've got the pool and the fitness center there, which is a nice feature. Rennie Park down here, Memorial Park right here. This is kind of the center of a lot of the community activities. They do a thing called the Old Fashioned Festival every year. We don't do fireworks on 4th of July in Newberg, apparently. So we everybody else does 4th of July fireworks, but Newberg pushes it out to later in July as part of their Old Fashioned Festival. And they set up, you know, you got booths and food and all that stuff here. They set up the carnival rides down here, and then everybody, you know, they got a concert typically on stage, and then they'll do fireworks. It's pretty awesome. And actually they are, you know, they might be moving that actually, now that I think about it, because they are actually redoing, probably not the booths, they'll probably keep the same, but I think they're going to move the fireworks, because this is going to be redone in artificial turf here pretty soon. And I don't think they want people on it, just sitting on it once they do that. But that's going to be awesome too. A lot of the soccer games that my kids played and continue to play are down on this field. Definitely didn't hit all of them, but there's a lot of parks for sure in here. You also have some walking paths down. I pointed out the skate park, you know, down this way. You got some walking paths there. So just and then, oh yeah, can't miss Herbert Hoover Park right over here. And there's a disc golf course here as well. So another kind of cool and unique feature as that's become more popular as well. Okay, let's jump into neighborhoods, housing, price points, all of that stuff. Hopefully the prior stuff kind of gave you a little bit of context about the city. I certainly didn't hit on everything, but, you know, try to give you a taste of what is out there and some of the bigger amenities and things like that. So we're gonna go through some of these neighborhoods. I'm not gonna hit everything. I'm gonna kind of hit a couple specific neighborhoods and then some general areas, just to give you a kind of an overall idea of what is available here. So obviously we talked about the golf course. So this is the golf course community here. This is the greens. We'll get into price points here as when I, you know, switch gears on that. First, kind of just want to give you where things are at. This is the Oaks. Both of these were developed kind of mid 2000, 2005 to 2010 range. Up this way is, you know, there's some new development going on here. So this is all brand new construction happening on the east side of town. This right here is 70s to early 80s built. You'll find a lot of your single level ranch homes in here. So kind of some entry level price point stuff in here, single level, 1,000 to 1,300 square foot, that sort of thing. Up as you get this, you've got kind of basically that same thing going on here, a little bit of a mix of things. And then you have South Newberg. Basically, a lot of the town grew from the downtown area, right? As a lot of towns do. So your older part of town is going to be kind of centered around here. It basically grew south towards the river, and then eventually started growing, north, from here up later. So this is where you're going to find some of your smaller homes, your older homes, some of your more affordable price points. But you do have a mix in there as well, where some new development has come in, nothing big, but some of your infill, where you're going to get one or two houses that are newer, and that's happened over years, right? So you've got, a lot of 1900s to 1930s, 40s homes, and then you've got a sprinkling of stuff each decade that's kind of infilled in there as the cities continued to grow. So this has been kind of revitalizing. This used to be a paper mill, and it did provide quite a few jobs. Nobody really wants to live next to a factory, right? So it is what it is. And so even though this bypass is here, they actually did a pretty good job with the barrier here, and with that mill not being there anymore. And they've got actually a big waterfront master plan that's going to be, way in the future, but they do have plans with how they want to develop this. It's getting cleaned up, and it's getting, houses are being renovated, and so there's some more, infill development happening. And so it's, you're seeing some of that positive change going on in the south side of Newberg here. On the north side of town, this is where you'd, started to see a lot of the development happen, as, the kind of the 90s to 2010 and beyond range, where it just kind of kept growing north. So you've got, you know, some 80s stuff in here, and you've got, you know, kind of 80s, 90s in here. And then right here, you've got, you know, kind of 90s was right in this area as well. 2000 to 2010, this is when it was all developed. And then, you know, this was 2010-ish. No, later than that. But this is kind of some of your newer north side development stuff over the last, like, probably 10 years, maybe a little bit less. And there's some new stuff getting sprinkled in here as well. So, oh, and I almost missed, totally almost missed the brand new development that's going on. So I pointed out the new development that's happening on the east down here. Then this is the largest new development. So this is about 110 homes. Most of those are attached townhomes. There's a handful of single level. I think they're single level, but at least single family. They're going to be in there as well. And then this is a 400 home community that has been all planned out, and they've started to break ground. They've actually got a pretty good start on it. They're actually pre-selling pretty quickly. I have some clients that are buying one that just broke ground a couple weeks ago, or actually less than a week ago. So this is going to be 400 homes. They have this all planned out to have a park here and a clubhouse and a pool and all of that stuff. So it's going to be a really well designed community. It is a well designed community. Obviously those amenities are going to come probably a little bit later, but you're going to have a park and a pool and a clubhouse and all of that stuff. And then what's really cool is this is actually going to be a nature preserve. They're going to have walking trails here. This is going to be a great community where you'll have good access, brand new homes. You'll have, those amenities that I mentioned, and you'll also have access to a natural amenity, this nature preserve right here, which is pretty awesome. And then before we move on to price points, I just want to mention, obviously we're in a fairly rural area here. So outside of the city, you have all sorts of, acreage properties. If you're looking for something with a little bit more space, you don't want to be in town, but you want to be close to town. Lots of opportunities up in, just outside of the city and in the mountain areas. And there's just a lot of really cool properties outside of the city as well, if that's more your speed. Okay, let's talk really quick about price points and what you can expect to find for housing if you're looking to buy a home in this area. So I'm going to kind of work backwards. I just mentioned the rural properties. Just can kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. Obviously, when you get rural properties, there's a huge range of what that looks like, from acreage size to type of home. You get all sorts of unique homes, things like that. So you're gonna have a huge range, as you can, anywhere from like 1 million up to, 4.5 or more. But a lot of, you can find quite a bit in kind of the low 1 million to mid 1 million range. You're gonna find some, decent homes. You're gonna find stuff that's this one's only on 4 acres. This one's on 10 acres, 2,800 square feet. This one right here is on 23 acres. What's this one over here? You got, 20 acres, a 3,500 square foot house. So you're going to find a decent amount in the, in the $1 to $1.5 million range. That's going to have a good amount of property, and it's going to have, a decent home on it. You can certainly find much more expensive than that. You see these, kind of $2 million ones popping up here, where you've got, maybe a little bit newer, a little bit bigger homes. This one 2.7, there's a new construction on 20 acres, right? This one's, I'm assuming, new construction as well. Yeah, so new construction, 20 acres, 4,200 square feet. So you definitely get, kind of up there in that $2.5 to $3.5 million range. I've seen some in the $4 million range as well, just kind of depending on what you're getting, how many acres, how new. If you're something brand new construction, you're certainly going to be probably closer to the 2.5, maybe even 3.5 or 4, depending on how custom it is and how much acreage. Okay, now as you move back into town, let's change our parameters here, and so we can see what's going on in town. Go the other direction, and we're going to check out the greens and kind of go through the similar order that we did when we were just looking at the neighborhoods. So here you're going to have anything from, about 2,200 square feet up to about 3,500 square feet, and in price range in mid 600s up to about, high 7s, 800, like you can see here. So these are, 4 bedroom, 23, 24, 2,500 square feet in that upper $600,000 range. This one's probably like, I said 3,500 is probably, and look at that, yeah, just right under 3,500, 780 for that. So that's the range that you're going to find in here. Again, kind of built in that, mid to late 2000, 2005 to 2010 range. Over here, you got similar era, a little bit smaller homes, a little bit. So this one's, 1,900 square feet, 550. So you're going to get a similar, you're not on the golf course, obviously, but you're close. Similar era, a little bit smaller, although there are some in here. There's none for sale right now, it doesn't look like, but that are, closer to that 3,000 square foot range. But you're gonna have a little bit lower price point. Here, there's actually a 55 plus community that I didn't mention when I was going through it right in here. So there's a little pocket of 55 plus if you're looking for that. Up this way, you've got your new construction. So this stuff is all built in the last couple of years. A lot of these are single level. I'm sorry, not single level. There's some single levels on the back, like right there. So we got 2,000 square foot single level, 700,000. You've got these 3-level ones where you've got your garage, and then you've got your main living here, and then your bedrooms upstairs. So you actually get a pretty good amount of square footage for the price on these. 4-bedroom, 1,700 square feet for about 500,000. You're going to find some smaller ones in here too that are 1,200 square foot 2 bedrooms in the low 400 range. There's really nothing on the market here right now, but your single level ranges, a lot of those are going to be what's in here. Probably anywhere from 1,000 to 1,300 square feet, mid 400s to low 5s is kind of the price point you're going to see for that, depending on how big, where they are in that range and how updated they are. In the south part, you're going to see, again, that kind of that range of era and size and price point. But look at this, you've got something 350, right? So that's going to be definitely the lower end of the price point. 350 to 400. I mean, there's not going to be a lot in less than 400. 400 is kind of the entry level price point here in Newberg, other than these are manufactured homes on leased land. So you're just buying the house and you pay space rent for the land there. That's why those are so inexpensive. 2-bedroom, 900 square foot for 390 here. And then you've got, there's a ranch, there's a newer, that one's not newer. There's a newer one. This one's a newish construction, 1,400 square feet, 4-bedroom for 500 or upper 4s. You got some classic stuff for sure. This one's a big, pretty good fixer. So, for the bedrooms and square footage, the price point's good because it needs a lot of work, but it's a really cool house. But yeah, you got a mix of housing types and era and price points there. On the north side of town, you've got, and then, back over here where they're doing the new construction. I don't know these attached. I'm assuming they haven't released price point yet, but you saw what this single level is. So I think they're going to continue that in the back. So it's going to be relatively the same. And then these would be attached townhomes, a big chunk of them. So I'm guessing those would be in like kind of the low, maybe mid 4s, depending on how many square feet they do. North side of town here, I'll just kind of touch on the main parts. So you've got, some 90s stuff here, 1,400 square feet, 450. Again, 1,400 square feet, 1,500 square feet for 5. Oh, you got an 825, 3,000 square foot. That one might be a little bit overpriced actually, just considering you can get that over on the golf course. Although I think this one's newer than that one over on the golf course too. And then you've got some newer stuff up here, 2,500 square foot, 700,000. This is kind of, fairly new up this way. Again, this is all built, 2005 to 2010-ish. You've got 5-bedroom, 2,400 square feet. This actually, it's on Kemper Crest. Actually, I used to live on that street. So 5-bedroom, 2,400 square feet, 640. There are some smaller. Ours was actually less than 1,900 square feet on this street. So it's probably closer to like low to mid 5s, 1,600 square foot, 3-bedroom for 550. So that's kind of the range that you're going to find in there. Is on this side, you've got some smaller ones. This side, they started doing, your smaller ones are going to be 1,900 square feet up to, again, 3,000, 3,200 square feet. So 550 to, mid 7s over here, maybe some mid 4s. Up to the mid 5s, and then some outliers that are a little bit bigger and more expensive over here. And then this is that new development. So they've got a pretty good mix of housing in here, from everything from cottages to single level homes. I don't know if they're doing attached or not here, but some good sized 2-story homes as well. So you've got, you can see price points starting in the high 5s for these 3-bedroom, 1,900 square foot. You've got 4-bedroom, 2,600 square foot, that are in the mid 7s. And then I believe they actually have some stuff that's maybe not, I think they don't have it a garage, and it's not this one. This is different, but I think these are alley load garages. That have to check the plan again. But I believe they had some that were like in the mid to upper 4s, although that price point might have changed a little bit since I last looked at those, because prices have not really gone down that much. But yeah, this is going to have a pretty good mix of price points and sizes and housing types, but anywhere from kind of that 500,000 up to, 8, low 8s is what you're going to see in here. And then sizes from, I think they start at about 1,900 square feet. Yeah, like that one, up to, 28, 3,000 square feet is what you're going to see. So that'll give you just, again, hopefully a brief idea of the types of homes, the price point, kind of where neighborhoods are at, just to give you an idea of what's possible and what's available. Of course, if you're looking for something specific, or you're looking to move to the area, or just want some more information, that's what I'm here for. So make sure you reach out. Happy to get you more information on any of these neighborhoods, any that give you maybe some more options of ones that I didn't touch on. Talk about anything like that in more detail with you. Just reach out, and I'm happy to connect and go over that with you and help in any way that I can. Thanks for watching. I hope this was super helpful to you. If you're looking for a home here in Oregon wine country or the Portland metro, reach out to me by clicking the link in the description or in my bio and filling out the form to connect, or you can just book a call with me on my calendar. Again, make sure to subscribe for more content about the area so you don't miss a thing. We'll catch you next time.